Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 2005 Ford GT. Now this was produced between 2004 and 2006, with 4,038 being made, and stylistically it's reminiscent of the 1960s GT40 Racer, which won at Le Mans several times, and yeah, it also shares the same layout of rear-wheel drive and mid-engined, but that is pretty much where the similarities between this and the classic car end, because this is longer, wider and taller than the original car, crucially being 4 inches taller at 44 inches rather than the 40 inches that the GT40 was. It's got a much larger, more powerful engine, and it's got technologies that weren't really available at the time. Specifically, it uses carbon fibre in its bodywork in places. It's got aluminium body panels, and it's got Brembo brakes up front and rear. And I really do like this car in a lot of ways, and it's easily one of my favourite supercars from the 2000s, even though I do have a couple of issues with it. But in terms of interior, it is really rather nice. I like the retro vibe going on with those buttons in the centre of the dashboard, and the white on black dials, and the numerous amount of dials that you've got going to tell you about all the car. Yeah, it's really rather nicely simplistic in here, but without being barren in the process, and it doesn't even have all that much in the way of weight either, at 3,390 pounds, which for an American car is pretty lightweight, which is, really hit home when you see how Spartan the car is when you open up the rear here, because you can even see the suspension mountings. But yeah, the big difference between this and the original car is its 5.4 litre supercharged V8 engine, producing 550 horsepower and 500 pounds-feet of torque, which is significantly more than the less than 400 horsepower that the original GT40 was knocking out. Now granted, there was a V8 version eventually that had nearly 500 horsepower, but yeah, this licks that in terms of horsepower and torque. And it's got massive wide chunky tyres in the rear there, a rear diffuser, twin exhausts, and it's just overall really a well designed car on the whole. The only real problem I have with this car is the roof little bits that the doors have, which, if you've seen Top Gear, is a bit of a problem if you're parking up alongside a car. It means you can't really get inside, which is why I like the convertible limited edition version of this. I think it was called the GTX R1 or something like that. Only 100 of them were made, but it is a convertible version, so it doesn't have that door problem, and it also has 150 extra horsepower. So that would be the one I would go for if money was no object, but since this is obviously a far more common vehicle, even though only 4,000 were made, this is the one that you're more likely to be able to see on the road and actually get your hands on. So nonetheless, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. Just checked, and that limited edition version was the GTX one, so just for clarification there. But yeah, this is the only version we've ever had of this generation of 4 GT, even though I would like the GTX one at some point. Like I said, I do prefer it in terms of the way it looks, and it's definitely got more power, but if you really want a version of that, you can give the extra horsepower and torque that car has to at least get close to that car. But yeah, I'll just let you listen to this car, because it has a really rather unusual engine note to go along with the supercharger. So yeah, I say unusual because even though it is a V8 and Americans are well known for making big loud V8s, it's really rather quite muted in comparison to the whine of the supercharger, but I'm actually fine with that. It means it's a little bit more different to the standard kind of supercar engine noises that you get from the same period as this, and at the end of the day it still chucks out a lot of power and torque, and is really rather quick. But one noticeable difference between this and other supercars is the fact the way it revs, and the fact it's not a really fast-paced kind of car. It's by no means a slow car, but it's really rather lazy in the way that it revs. As you can see, it's only about 6,500 RPM, which is way below, the likes of a Carrera GT from the same period, which is also a mid-engine rear-wheel drive supercar. But yeah, this is way lazier in terms of those maximum revs, and it's also quite lazy in terms of the way it gets there. It's not slow, like I said, but it feels like it's quite a slowly progressing kind of car in terms of the way it gathers speed, which again is something I'm fine with. It's, like I said, more unusual than the fast-paced, oh, we hit a gear and hit another gear, hit another gear. It's more of a laid-back kind of supercar with, you know, some kind of obviously GT pretensions, considering it's called the GT, which obviously means Grand Tourer. So yeah, it feels more on that end than say a supercar, but it's still got supercar levels of acceleration. 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, 0 to 100 in 8.8 seconds, and it going to a top speed of 213 miles an hour, though Ford themselves say it's more like 205. But yeah, on this game at least you kind of get up to more than 210, 213 miles an hour, which is yeah, pretty damn good even by today's standards, never mind back then, where the Carrera GT or even an SLR could not get up to that kind of speed. So yeah, I really do like this car, and even though it's obviously an American car, and plenty of people will say American cars, especially from the mid-2000s and back, aren't the best in terms of handling, this certainly is. It's obviously not quite as nimble as some of the European equivalents, but considering it doesn't exactly weigh all that much, and yeah, it has those big chunky tyres and plenty of torque on the go, and yeah, has pretty damn good steering. It's, yeah, nearly as good as the European equivalents from the time, and yeah, this would easily give a you know, Corvette from the same period, or even a slightly later Corvette, a run for its money, to be honest. So yeah, really enjoyable car, and I don't think it gets as much credit as it really deserves, especially since the the newer Ford GT has come out, which I like in a lot of ways, but it really lacks quite the same kind of engine note that this has going for it, while yeah, being a little bit too on the serious side for me. But yeah, this is still a great car in its own right, and yeah, I wish more people would give it credit, because even though this has been featured on plenty of Forza games, it's not one car that I see a lot of people either talking about or driving. So yeah, I hope more people get out there and try it out, because yeah, it's well worth the praise that I've given it, as well as well worth praise from other people. So yeah, try it out if you haven't, and yeah, see if you like it as much as I do. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.